real quick, I won't be real long. Listen, I hope everybody's safe, healthy. I mean, certainly the world's a different place than when we last had a chance to visit. It seems like forever ago that I've had a chance to address everybody. Just like we've talked to our defensive unit a lot about how fortunate we are in this business to have jobs and still be working. And I talked with the guys a little bit about let's not forget that and don't lose sight of the people that are going through a rough time right now. And we think about that often. I know my wife and I do. I'm sure you guys do as well. So, and extended families, and there's just so many tentacles to this whole thing that you don't even realize until you hear somebody's story. But having said that, and with regards to the meetings with the players, I'm getting an education, needless to say, on technology, but it's been great. I think we're going to take a lot from this and be able to use it. I'm talking about me as a person. I was not a FaceTimer on the phone, so we use WebEx meetings and some of the Zoom, so being able to do that with family has been just terrific. Family that's further distances away. So again, I'm happy to get back with the guys. It was great to do the meetings. I try to do a unit meeting every day. It's real quick. Then we break off into our groups. It's what is different for me is I really like being in front of a room and conversing with the players, asking questions. That's a little bit difficult in the WebEx or the Zoom world. So that I do miss, and actually getting outside and teaching the guys. I really do miss that. But hopefully we can keep our fingers crossed. We'll be back at it soon. So with that, I'll just kind of open it up. I went way longer than I wanted to, Sid. Sorry about that.
Let's start with Adam Teicher. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Steve. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm going to make sure I get my volume on here so that – okay, good.
I was just wondering about Willie Gay and what maybe he gives you that you didn't have on the team last year in his position.
Well, it's interesting. Maybe I'm different in some ways with rookies, but I don't know that you know what you have until you get them here. Now look at Brett Veach and his staff did a terrific job identifying him. We're glad we have him. We're excited for what we think he can do. But until we get him out there, we won't really know. I mean, things jump off the chart with regards to speed. And he's a violent hitter, which we love. Hopefully all those things will transfer to this league.
Let's go to Danny Welniak. Go ahead, Danny.
Hey, Coach. Praying that you and your family are all doing well. Thank you so much for doing this. My question for you is, with the NFL allowing some training facilities to open, how much hope does that offer you guys that you might have a normal or regular kind of training camp and even preseason?
Yeah. Listen, we're staying hopeful that will happen. And I know Coach Reed has talked to you guys already about his plans, and he's got all kinds of he's an organized man, so he's got us organized for whatever happens. And for right now, until they tell us differently, we're very hopeful we get the training camp. I think I've told you this before. Training camp is one of my all-time favorite things to do in this business, because you're up there, you're all together, you're in a dorm. I still like that. And it's all football, being around the guys. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and pray that we can have a normal training camp.
Let's go to Sam McDowell. Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, Coach. Hope everything's well.
Thanks, Sam.
We talked to Hitchens last week, and he mentioned that one of the first things you told the defensive group was that you feel like they can be better this year. What sort of specifically stands out to you for why you would say that?
Well, first and foremost, and I think you all realize this, we need to begin the season better, in my opinion. We knew, Hitch and I talked about this yesterday because I called him yesterday I hadn't talked to him in a while, but we knew there were going to be bumps in the road early with regards to feeling out coaches and players and what we had, what they could do, and a new system and the whole thing. And we went through some rough patches, but really because of the assistant coaches we have who just kept pounding the details and over and over and over and over, and the guys embracing it and not getting frustrated with all the walkthroughs we had and all the reps that we took. My hope is that we're past that. And it would be really nice if we could come out of the blocks and play good defense at the beginning of the season, not wait. Yeah, I think we maybe felt like it was 7 or 8 games before we really got in the groove.
Okay, let's go to Nate Taylor. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Steve. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us. To kind of build off the last question from Sam, in terms of installing a defense last year, putting in the terminology, understanding how the coaches are going to work together, but even before you get to the players, how different from your experience in the past has year two been in terms of teaching the guys that have been there, adding some new players, whether it's the draft or free agency? And what did you see in those first, say, 6-7 weeks that you know that you guys can sort of build upon based on what you guys showed in the playoffs?
Yeah, good point. I'll start with the ending one that you asked there, Nate. More than anything, myself and the coaches learning what our guys could and couldn't do was huge. And so going into this year, and fortunately for us, by great work by Brett Veach and his staff, we have most of the guys back. Now, not all of them. There's some guys we're going to miss. But knowing what the abilities of those guys already going into year two might keep us from having to experiment, so to speak. And we can keep, we've sat here with the scheme and said, okay, let's keep this because our guys are really good at it. And maybe we get rid of that, add something in. So there is, the hope is that you grow in the system, you can expand a little bit, just like Andy always talks about with his offense, where they keep adding. I know you guys had all kinds of questions for Patrick Mahomes. What can he do in his second year? And you're right where you're going. And I think Andy told you that you keep adding and building what they can absorb. The more they embrace, the better we can be. I feel the same way on defense because I do think in this league nowadays you got to be multiple in enough regards to keep people off balance, so to speak. So hopefully we can do that.
Let's go to Nick Schaefer. Go ahead, Nick.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned your family. I'm just wondering if you maybe have a different perspective on this thing. We're in the Midwest, right, and not hit as hard as other areas, especially the Northeast. And with your ties to New York, do you have a different perspective on this whole thing this whole time, and has it affected you maybe more than others?
Yes and no. I think the whole country's feeling it because, listen, no matter where you are, you probably have a connection to somebody that's in a hot spot, so to speak. But out east, they've been in lockdown. It hasn't really eased up as much, although I think most of the country is starting to do that. I'll be honest with you. I just throw this out, and this may seem small. I really feel for seniors in high school and seniors in college who lost their, and look at it. I'm sure everybody here probably went to college and was tied in somehow. You always look forward to that senior spring and to have fun with your friends. I know that's a small thing, but we have, my wife and I do have parents that are elderly, and some of them are in independent living. And I tell you, what's really hard is to explain to parents or elderly people that you can't come and see them. And sometimes, depending on where they are in their thought process, they may not remember that the next day. And you can only imagine being somebody like that, sitting at home by themselves, no guests, no family coming to see them. So I think it's affecting everywhere. I just, my wife and I think about other people often and hope and pray we can come out of this thing.
Let's go to Pete Sweeney. Go ahead, Pete.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for taking some time with us. I was curious about your top two defensive picks in Gay and Snead. And when it comes to Gay, I know you'd mentioned you want to get him in person, but I was wondering if there was a specific backer position in mind for him and why. And then with Snead, how long do you think he'll be ready based upon what you've seen on film to be a regular contributor?
Yeah, first Willie. I think we'll probably begin with Willie at one of the outside positions. We think, without knowing right away, that we're hopeful, I should say that he would replace what Reggie Ragland did for us last year. Now, again, I preface that, Pete, by saying we won't know that until we get him. I think we're a long way away from, you guys get it. I mean, they come from college into the pros, and trying to get him up to speed takes a little while. And look at, he loses, all these young guys lose out on not having these foundation of reps, whether it's mental or walkthroughs. It feels like, guys and gals, it feels like 2011 when we had the lockout when I was in St. Louis and we didn't have all those guys. Now we're way ahead of that because we have these Zoom meetings. But I think Willie Gay will begin there. Whatever else we can do with him, we'll build on that. With Jerry Snead, I was very impressed with his tape with regards to all the things that he did. He played corner, and he's a big corner. He played some nickel. covered slot receivers, and they actually played him at safety. And I thought he did really good at all of them. We see him as a corner right now, and we'll see where that progresses to. But I think anybody that can come in with that kind of flexibility is a good thing.
All right, guys, we probably have time for a few more, so we're going to go Sarin, Herbie, and then Vahe. Go ahead, Sarin.
Coach, thanks for the time. Can you give us an update on what the timeline? I know a legal process has to work out, but with Bashaud Breeland, do you know what your timeline is as far as when he'll be ready and when he'll be a full participant?
I do not, and I don't even know where it is game-wise and all that. But Breezy has been in the meetings with us, been very engaged, and he's done a heck of a job. So again, that's another player that we have that is a second year in the system. I'm glad we got him back. And just like you're talking about, I think we'll just let that play out. I know Coach Reed has addressed it, and I'll kind of stand on whatever he has said. But I'm just, from our regard, I'm just glad we got him back.
But right now he's working through the whole process normally.
Yeah, I don't know much about the whole what's going on.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean process. I mean, he's working, doing all the work normally with the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't know the rest of that, but he's been in our meetings for as much as we can do right now, which is good. I'm glad about that.
Let's go to Vahe. Go ahead, Vahe.
Hey, Steve. Good to see you.
Me too.
Just wondering, it's kind of apples and oranges, but I do wonder how you would say, how your grasp on what you have in front of you is different this year than it was last year. I mean, last year you were still installing things, but this year you're at distance. Just how would you compare and contrast that?
Great question. I'll share this with you. We met as a defensive staff this morning on the WebEx, and so the veterans are into their fourth week right now. They had a week off, like Coach told you, and then we got them again. Our concern as a defensive staff is when you can only do this. I'm concerned about them getting bored. It's because it is the same system. Now look at if this was a year ago, everybody'd be glued in. It's new to everybody. But now look at it. It's human nature to say, well, I know that. I've heard Coach Spag say that 100 times. Why do I got to listen to that again? But so we're looking for creative ways to feed this to our guys and to keep them sharp in what we did and what we want to continue to do. Whether it's I get on with the coaches and listen to their group meetings, and they're finding good and creative ways. I mean, we have players that are installing defenses. We have Jeopardy games. We have all kinds of things we do to keep we're all just trying to keep each other attentive and amused in some ways in sticking with football and yet getting a lot done. But it's a little bit of a challenge in this setting to do that. I mean, just going out and walking through things is light years ahead of sitting in a meeting all day.
Okay, Herbie, you want to close us out?
Yeah, sure. Hey, Coach, how are you, man?
All right, Herb.
Hey, Taco Charlton, a former first-round draft pick, and for one reason or another, it didn't work out in Dallas, it didn't work out in Miami, but how much do you see in him, and how excited are you to get him into your scheme, hopefully to see his full potential?
Yeah, listen, we were really fortunate last year when we got Emmanuel Agba. And he surfaced in the system, played good football, and now he's at Miami. And Emmanuel and I have talked about this a lot. A change of scenery for him was really good. So I think the hope certainly is that maybe Taco could do the same thing. Now, we don't know that. Unfortunately, Coach Daly and I don't have the chance to get to know him quite as well through a computer. But I've heard really good things about him, and we're hopeful. I mean, he gets thrown in the mix with everybody else, and hopefully he can find a guy on the edge that can help us going forward. But we'll find that out. We got a long way to go, I guess, before we can determine that.
Well, Coach Spags, we appreciate you joining us. Hopefully we get to see you soon.
Yeah, I wish everybody safe and healthy, however many days we got to go through this. Let's keep our fingers crossed, right? Appreciate you spending time with us. Thank you.